from somebody watching the ones that are there. So Jacob, I'm gonna turn it over to you. I want to give you time for whatever you have for us.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I feel like I'm really loud there.
I'm worried back. I'm worried back.
Thank y'all so much for letting me come and share with y'all what the Tuckers are doing, what I got to do on that trip. I really do appreciate it. I got to make a personal apology to Candace, who already had to sit through the whole thing once. I'm really sorry. But, we'll talk about it. So I really just recently got to go to Botswana and visit the Tuckers. Let's see here. Well, they're down in Botswana, which is located in the southern part of Africa. Oh, this was the wrong. This is the one I had for the kids.
Okay, it was
for the kids.
Okay, I asked you which one, and
Yeah, is there the other one up there that can pull up? When I did Kids Club, I had that one pulled up.
it hasn't been. No, it's not ready.
Oh, okay.
This looks good too.
Well, this one? Well, we're gonna go with this then. This is what I did for the kids in the Kids Club. I told them, I said, y'all want to see what I'm doing in Africa? I was going to show them, I just showed them a funny little video, but... Okay, there's a little bit of a lag, I think, here. We'll get it figured out.
Let me just restart it there.
So again, I apologize. That was set up when I was doing all the little kids stuff. Yeah.
That was worth it.
Yeah, it was worth it. Well, so Botswana, they're in Botswana. They're located down in the southern part of Africa. They're just north of South Africa, kind of beside Zambia and Namibia. They're out in the middle of nowhere. Whoever thinks that this is out in the middle of nowhere, I learned that they are actually in the middle of nowhere. Because you fly into Mound, it took about 3 days of flying, like 3 days of planes and airports to get to Mound. And then Mound's about 6 hours away from where they live in the village of Mahopa. And when there's six, we think about, oh, okay, that's, even closer than Anchorage. But there's no gas in Mahopa, there's no gas along the way. The closest place to get gas or groceries or anything is Mound. And that's a long, long 6-hour desert road there's literally termite mounds this far up in the road that you have to swerve off of the road because the termite mounds are built right up inside the road. And it's a totally different thing. You're out in the middle of nowhere when you go out there to them. And it was really neat just to get out there. Like I said, you fly in the Mound, you drive all the way out through there, and then you really just kind of get landed out in the middle of nowhere in that village of Mahopa. Out there, a little bit of voice, a little bit of everyone say, hey! Again, we're going to have to play this by ear because this is what I set up for the little kids. Well, they lead the church in, so what the Tuckers are doing is they're leading the church in 3 different villages. They lead the church in Dobe, Mahopa, Kongwa, and they also go out to these distant village outposts. So they drive out in the middle, they're already out in the middle of nowhere. But then out in the middle of nowhere to them are these little family groups that live out there, and they watch cattle for people. There's some wealthier people that live in South Africa and different parts, and they'll have cattle way out in the middle of nowhere, and they'll hire these people to work out there. And there's little family groups that live out there. And they are completely isolated. Like we showed up at one place in Kai Kai, and they hadn't had water in 3 days. And so we fortunately was able to we brought them over 100 gallons of water, and they were just tickled to death that we showed up with water. And it was really neat. I got to teach them out there, and so I ended up teaching about Elijah and Elijah on Mount Carmel, talking about the drought, the 3.5 year drought. That really, to them, that's a real life scenario to them, because they are in the desert. They run out of water. they'll go days without water, and it really kind of hit home to them. But this is in the village of Dyer. I learned off really quick that kids there like to get chased. And the kids are so much fun. They're such a joyful people. There's a big malnutrition issue out there. They live so far away from everything. The closest groceries are Mound. That's really where your closest groceries are at. They have these things, they call them a tuck shop. We would kind of consider it a woodshed that people have like a little store kind of thing in. But the inflation is insane, and so to buy any kind of food from them costs a fortune, and the people that don't make money, there's no industry out there. They're not making money, so they don't really have money. These crafts to them there's no value in Botswana for these crafts, so they live in extreme poverty. And as a big part of what the Tuckers try to do is try to bring food to them. They trade these goods for them because they don't want to set up a welfare system. They're really trying really hard to make sure that they're earning this food from them. Again, they don't have any monetary value in Botswana, but the Tuckers are just so adamant about them earning this food and not setting up a welfare system out there. But the kids, through all this hunger, the Tuckers will have kids out there eating out of their compost piles. And they'll go days without eating. They'll have tea. They'll put a lot of sugar in their little tea, but it's because that's the only calories they might get for days. So they might drink tea. It looks to us like, why are you putting so much tea and so much sugar in your tea? But they haven't had a meal in 3 days, and that sugar just makes them feel full. And sugar's cheap, so they'll have sugar, and it doesn't spoil. And it's just a whole other world. Until you get out there, you just really don't see it. But the malnutrition is a really big issue. But through all this issue of malnutrition, through all these issues that they're dealing with, of just loved ones dying really frequently and stuff, they're so full of joy. These people laugh all the time. It was amazing the amount of joy they would have. They just laughed all the time. At all times they were laughing. And these kids are no different. These kids just laughed and played, just had so much joy. They'd be hungry, something would come out that is possibly edible, and they would just flock to it. And whatever they were doing, it's like, oh, we might could eat this thing. And it was amazing though. They had so much joy. It was really humbling, and it made me just kind of think, man, we have so much, and we worry about little stuff that just doesn't even matter. These people, they have nothing, they have so much joy. And again, this was in the village of Dyer. I've been there for hours, okay, so I've been in Mahopa for hours. We went out to this village of Dyer. I was teaching my first time ever speaking with the translator, which is extremely difficult. I don't know if you ever had to teach the translator, but you have to speak, then the translator has to translate it, and in one place we had another translator translate it from their language to another language. By the time it was my turn again, I had no idea what I was even talking about. It was a hard little learning curve there. But I'm speaking in Dyer, and I'm teaching like I said, I've been in Africa now for hours, and I look up and there's a snake chasing a lizard around in the ceiling of the church. And so there's all these people sitting down on the floor in the church, and I kind of see this snake chasing this lizard around, but then all of a sudden that lizard fell out of the ground and landed right in the middle of all those people, and just boom! People scattered. It took us about half an hour to finally convince everybody to come back. It was an exciting first morning in Africa. And this guy's Willem, he took care of the property that little church is on for like 10 years. There wasn't a missionary down there for like 10 years, and he maintained it best he could, kind of try to keep people from stealing things and stuff, but loves the Lord. There's a big, I don't know how to say it, they don't understand that they're really having a misconnection between understanding that once you receive Christ, once you come to the knowledge of Christ, you don't need the other stuff. So these people, they'll love Christ and they'll love the Lord, but then they're like, well, you have to first sacrifice to the ancestors and then you pray to God, and then He hears you better. And so the Tuckers are really trying to narrow this down. No, it's Jesus and only Jesus. You have to leave all this behind. When you have Jesus, you don't need anything else. So kind of the whole 2 weeks I was there, every time we taught, every time we did anything, it was always, it's Jesus and only Jesus. Jesus and only Jesus. And because they still have these beliefs, like pray to ancestors first, then pray to God, or sacrifice the animals first, and then pray to God. Because they're still active witch doctors just in their area. There's a lot of like false prophets. They call themselves prophets and stuff, but it's just they're robbing people. There's one guy they called the Doom Doctor in Mound, And so people pay him for a prayer, and so they give him money for a prayer, and while he prays for him, he sprays them in the face with bug spray. And it's like that wasp spray, it's called Doom out there. It's like that wasp spray, you don't want to get anywhere near it, so you spray that bug spray all the way over there and it kills them. He sprays them in the face while he prays for them. And of course, it probably gives them this euphoric feeling getting sprayed in the face with that bug spray. And so they probably think he's doing something. And so there's a lot of that false teaching going on, and the Tuckers are really in a hard place. They're really having to try to just start educating and discipling these people that they're wanting to learn, but they have no background whatsoever. So it's, in a way, it's a really unique, wonderful opportunity because you can kind of start from scratch with the scripture, but they have so much ancestral worship stuff built into their culture and stuff that they're really having to really work on trying to get them to break away from that stuff. It's really hard. But everywhere we taught, fortunately the Tuckers let me speak at all 3 of those villages and speak in the cattle posts, teach the schools, and everything was always about you have to choose, you have to make a choice, you can't mix it together, you have to make a choice. And you think about that though, don't we kind of face the same thing here in America? It looks different. We're not hiring witch doctors to do things, but we'd always think, oh yeah, Jesus Christ gives you so much joy. And that new 2022 Chevy, have y'all seen that thing? We do that too, we just do it in different ways, And here are just some of the boys that I got to hang out with. These boys followed around everywhere you went. They would just kind of follow you around. About 2/3 of the boys there are named Cal. It's pronounced differently though. So where you click your tongue at, you can say cow clicking in the middle of your tongue or cow clicking in the back of your tongue. And to them, it's like having someone named Jacob and Jason. 2 totally different names. So, but they have different clicks in their tongue where they pronounce stuff at. And to them, it's totally different names. And I can't do the clicks. So they were just all cows. But they were just, again, such joyful little boys. So much joy. And here's just at one of the time we were trading. We were doing trading with the people. So the Tuckers, they kind of maxed their budget out, and they bought all the food they could get for that month. And it spent 2-3 days packing all these bundles up, putting together all these food bundles. Again, they're trying so hard to not set up a welfare system, not set up a dependency system with the people. They trade for these goods, and it's a really long process doing it that way. But I really admire what they're doing because they're really doing a good job with them. But they have them trade for goods, and their interpreter, he's good about checking about, they kind of have a set standard, what they kind of established, and then this is kind of what you work off of. And they trade for the, value of the food. And it works really good, but the problem they face though is they run out of food really quickly. They like we traded for food by the following week they were out of food and they needed more food. But it was the very end of their dry season. So the way Thad kind of explained it, he was kind of like it's kind of like here in Alaska in April or March. Everything's starting to warm up, everything's starting to kind of come around, things are starting to thaw, but you still can't do nothing. You can't plant your gardens yet. You can't really. Everything's still kind of. But you're in this kind of lag point. So we were there at the very end of the dry season. They've already kind of depleted all the bush food that was grew during the rainy season, and they're waiting for rain. They're just kind of they've gone through that dry season. It's just about over, but their food was just pretty much depleted. And they really needed more food. So the Tuckers are hoping to be able to start being able to turn this stuff around so they can start using this in order to purchase more food for the people, because it really is a big malnutrition issue. Again, just more kids. I love the kids. Here's an example of a food bundle right there, lady carrying. Sorry the picture's kind of dark, but it was in the shade. And everything's really bright and hot there. I'm not sure if you understand. It was over 100 degrees the whole time I was there. And like inside their house, is still so. I think it's around 95 degrees in the house, and their battery system for their electricity for their electrical system, they can't build enough electricity in their battery bank, so they can't even run fans and stuff to try to cool it off at all because they're just lacking the storage capacity of the batteries. And so it was just so hot. They're just barely getting enough energy to basically run the refrigerator and keep the refrigerator going through the day and stuff to try to keep food from spoiling. But so everybody just kind of hangs through the shade. Even the sand bushmen there, they just kind of hang out in the shade and they stay out of the sun best they can. Again, this is what I put this slideshow together in about 20 minutes before I went to the first kids club after we got back. So now this these are just some ladies they came to trade. I just thought it was really cool. They would use these little pieces of cloth. I got Amanda one while I was there. And they'd use these cloths, and these things were everything between dresses to backpacks to carrying their babies. They would throw an infant on their back and balance it on their back, and this baby would be just completely unconscious to the world, just sleeping, just as deeply, soundly asleep as you could ever imagine. They would just balance it on their back, and they'd be talking. They'd just throw that little wrap around their back and tie it down and stand back up. That baby would just cradle right down in there, and then next thing you know, they got it off, and they're wrapping around their shoulder. They're packing all this stuff inside of it, and then next thing you know, it's back to being something else. They use those little strips of cloth for everything out there. I just thought it was really neat and interesting. And here's some ladies there here getting Bibles. They were able to give out a ton of Bibles when I was there. So they had them translated into Setswana, which is the primary language there in Botswana. The way I understand it, Setswana is kind of the primary language for Botswana. However, these are San Bushmen, and they speak Jumkwanzi. And so very little translation has been done into Jumkwanzi, and so they're really tickled about having these audio Bibles, and they were solar powered little audio Bibles, and most of the people there don't read, so if you give them a Bible, it doesn't really do them any good because they can't read them. And so they were so tickled to be getting these audio Bibles. But before I left, you would just hear audio Bibles playing all over the place. They just played them all the time. There was always these audio Bibles playing all the time. It was really, really neat. Now that was our interpreter there in the orange stripes. His name was Cal. He was our interpreter. And the boy on the left, his name was Come On. Well, it wasn't his real name. I couldn't pronounce his real name, but so I called him Come On. But that's what most people called him, was Come On. And you see him wearing that old black hoodie. It was over 100 degrees there. He wore that hoodie the whole 2 weeks I was there, because it's the only thing he has. He has a black hoodie, and to him that's his shirt. And so he wore it the whole 2 weeks I was there. And two, talking about the joy that people have, that boy, he just recently, his little brother died trying to run away and escape abuse. He was at the boarding school a long way away, and 4 boys tried to run away and escape. And 2 of them ended up passing away. One of them died from dehydration, and one of them died by getting attacked by wild dogs. And one of those little boys that died was his little brother. His dad got jumped in the middle of the desert, and his dad stabbed the guy, defended himself, and so they brought the police in, and he arrested him, and the guy that got stabbed. And so he said, until the guy gets better and can tell his side of the story, we're just going to keep you in jail. His mom was sick, and so she had the kids out in the village of Kongwa, and so he was left to take care of the family home and the few cattle they have and stuff, make sure no one stole everything they had. And so he just, the teenage boy that just had all this stuff actively just going on. It was just a couple weeks earlier that he lost his brother and stuff. And here he is now left all alone, taking care of the whole family, everything the family owns all on his own. And laughed and played and cut up the whole time, just still so much joy. All he had was that one black hoodie and the pair of shorts he had on, and so much joy. So much joy. Here's just kind of an example of their homes. They live in those little, they make the structures of their homes out of poles. They cut poles. Thad's been really, that's one of the things Thad does. He's, from the time the sun comes up till after it's way past supper time, Thad is non-stop working, doing something. He's really been really intricate into getting a lot of the guys' work. Again, there's no industry there. There's not just jobs to go and apply for. And so Thad's been able to work out with a lot of the professional hunters. They have a lot of rich hunters go out in that area, a lot of elephants in the area. And so these professional hunters, they want roads cut and they want lanes cleared and different things for driving around looking for elephants. So Thad's been able to work out with the professional hunters a lot to hire these guys to go out and cut new roads and clear brush. And so he'll load up a truckload of them and take them out somewhere, no work, from the time you can see till you can't see no more, for $8 a day. And he said they're just all tickled to death about having that work to do. He's also worked out to where the professional hunters, after they kill an elephant, they'll call Thad, and then Thad will take a truckload of guys and they'll go and they'll harvest all the meat off of the elephant. He said it's really taken a while to get it to where the hunters are calling him quickly. He said the first one they got to, the guy called him 3 days after they'd shot the elephant. And we're not talking about 3 days out here, we're talking about 3 days out in that hot desert sun. Thad said you could smell it when you was driving up onto it. He said, I was like, there's no way. He said those guys jumped out of that truck and started just tearing into that elephant. He said they stripped every last bit of meat out of that 3-day-old hot elephant. Didn't waste a drop of it. He said they ate every last bit of it. And to show you, they're not going to waste food. To them, that was meat. And they were tickled to death and so joyful to get that meat. But now, as things work, they're starting to learn to call him as soon as they get them and everything. Is getting a good system worked out there. And that's just a bug I was showing to the kids. This was in the village of, well, not the village, the cattle post, Kapunahu. This is just a lady who lived there. Real sweet lady. That's not a good picture there. Here's a picture of what they would have as their, a lot of their bush food. So they call it a desert melon. They eat these desert melons. They eat seeds off of the baobab tree. They eat seeds off of the palm nuts. They eat a lot of different little stuff that they just find out there in the bush. It's a big food source for them. But again, this time of year is pretty much depleted. There's really not much of it left.
Hey, that's cool.